and we have a very special guest, really good friend, really good business partner, and an all-around expert entrepreneur, and that is Mr. Daven Michaels. How you doing, brother?
Hey, bud. How are you?
Doing great, man. I got to tell you, we're really excited to have you with us today. And for those of us that don't know Daven, which most of us should, there you go. Round of applause, baby. So this is the deal with Daven. Not that he needs much of an introduction, but Daven is just a super entrepreneur. This guy is been seen on stage with Bill Clinton, Mark Victor Hansen. He's a New York Times best-selling author, and he pretty much just has the whole virtual assistant and running your business anywhere in the world on lockdown. This is a man that knows what he's doing, is someone you should listen to, and if you focus for this next few minutes that we have together and take some notes, I promise you we're going to share with you some really cool nuggets, really cool tips that are going to help you take your business to the next level. With that said, let's get the party started.
All right.
So I know we have some questions written down. You're looking sharp over there, Daven.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
So we got some questions written down we want to address. A few things I wrote down that I want to talk about.
Wait, hold on. Before we get too far into this, I got a quick question for Daven. There was something that I heard, and I just wanted to clarify it with you. I heard that you designed some of the clothing for some of the biggest bands in the 80s and 90s. Is that true?
Yes, Oliver, that is true. It was my very first business. I was 15. And I think by the time I was 16, we opened our first showroom on Melrose, and we were designing clothing for music groups. And it was the early 80s. Most of the bands had nothing going on. They were playing their garage. They were playing small venues. And a funny thing happened. MTV came on the air and changed the face of music, changed our lives. Within about 90 days, most of our bands had record deals. Within about a year, they were selling millions of albums. When we started out, we were working with these small bands that had very little going on, small venues, 100-people venues, and about a year later, we were playing places like the Hollywood Bowl. So yeah, it was a long time ago, but that's how I got my start.
Is that what the records are on the wall behind you?
Actually, no. When I first started that business, I actually wanted to start a nightclub.
Of course you did.
For those of you that don't know what a teen nightclub is, it's like a regular nightclub, but they don't have alcohol. You can't drink. So I wanted to start my own teen nightclub, and I scouted a bunch of different locations for my nightclub. I put together a pretty extensive business plan. I pitched it out to just about anyone that would listen, and no one would give me the money. And so time went by, and it falling into an opportunity, and I did finally start my clothing company. But years later, I did get into the music business. For many years, I was the biggest electronic music event producer in the nation. I throw parties for 15,000 to 20,000 people a night, and what happened was the record label started sending me bands to put on my stage, and I would put them on my stage, and they'd start selling records overnight. So because of that, I was able to get a distribution deal for my first couple of record labels, and so I was a recording artist for a short stint, and then a music and television producer for about 15 years. So I got about I think like 22 of these all over the house.
That is so awesome, dude. You and I got to make an album together just so I could have one of those on my wall.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
That's awesome. So you said something I want to just touch on because this is a bit different on the pace that we're headed with virtual assistants. But at the end of the day, all of these shows that we make are about success and startups and being successful. And you just said something that you wanted to start this and you couldn't get the money. And I think that a lot of times in our businesses, it doesn't matter if we're selling bacon or we're selling records, a lot of times we needed to get money to go to the next level, and more often than not, you're going to hear no about 1 billion times before you hear yes. So just tell me what your mindset was at when you kept on hearing these no's, and what kept you, in the game and kept you going.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, I was very fortunate. My parents, I was an only child, so I didn't come with an instruction book. And so my parents had to wing it, and they were very, like my dad was a company man. He worked for the same company for 40 years. My mom was a homemaker. They had no experience in entrepreneurialism, but they never told me that I couldn't do it, and I couldn't do it. They never told me I couldn't do anything. So any idea that I thought had merit, I would just do. And sometimes they were really stupid and I fell on my ass, but after a very short time in my early 20s, I did figure it out in my 20s, and then built a bunch of very successful businesses over those years. And for me, I was just tenacious. I still am. I just don't stop. And if I have a vision of something in my sights, there's nothing between me and my vision, and I just go for it. Now the cool thing is that things are totally different than they were back then when I first started my business. When I first started my business, everything was brick and mortar. You basically you had to buy or rent a building. You had to do the leasehold improvements, do the build out. You were in it. You know what I mean? You had to take a sizable risk. When I started my first business, I begged, borrowed, and stole everything I could find. And I knew that if it failed, it would take me over a decade to pay off that debt. I mean, my entire youth would be gone. And so that was really frightening, And today, the cool thing is you can come up with an idea, you can throw it up online, you can throw a little traffic against it, you can see if it sticks. If it doesn't, you can just move on to the next thing. Now, it's a different climate, too, now, because you can do that. Everyone can do that, right? So, somebody that's got a little bit of brains, they can copy, you. Like, if you have a good business, they can just jump on board and copy you. So you've got to be innovative. Money follows innovation today. So, I mean, if you look at what's the biggest record label in the world today? We're talking about music. What's the biggest record label in the world? It's Apple. It's Apple, and it's iTunes.
Amazing, right?
Amazing, right, because money follows innovation. So you always have to be innovative, but the cool thing is that if you have an idea, if you have a spark, you can put a little money into it, throw it up online, throw a little traffic at it, and see if somebody buys. And that's something that we just did not have back in the day. So it's a whole different world, and I think there's more opportunity today than there ever has been in the history of man and womankind.
So it sounds like you've been a long-time entrepreneur and done a whole host of different projects, some being fun, some being more direct business related. So why don't you tell us how the transition came about to where you transferred into the virtual assistant space?
Yeah, sure, Oliver. I mean, and people do, they look at my background, they go like, how did a guy with this background end up in this business? And I've been self-employed for 3 decades now. So started when I was 15. It's been just about 30 years now, and it's been an incredible ride. And like you said, a lot of those years I was involved in endeavors that I enjoyed. I was appreciative of the fact that I made a great living, that I got to, create my own schedule, be in charge of my own destiny. That was cool. But I have to tell you, it wasn't until the last maybe 5 years or so that I started speaking, writing, empowering, making a difference in other people's lives that I truly found my fulfillment. And it was something. It was a string that I noticed over the whole 30 years. That every time I taught, I felt empowered. I felt great. Every time I gave something back to others, and it wasn't just for me, is when I really enjoyed it. And so today, that's what I do all the time. And so I never dreamt it could have been as cool as it is. I'm very fortunate. But to answer your question, I had a music publishing deal for Asia. It wasn't actually my own deal. It was another producer friend of mine. His name's Ian. And he was buried in a production project in Asia, and he needed help. And so I came in. I would come into Asia quarterly to work with him on these projects, and that's how I ended up getting into the outsourcing business. I ended up meeting a guy there. He had about 10 employees, and we started using his firm. Very bumpy ride. It was in the early days. The infrastructure wasn't there. But finally we figured it out, and then he began to have financial issues. So then it was like, well, gosh, what do we do now? Do we start all over again, or maybe we could invest some money in this business to keep it alive? And so that's what we did. And I didn't pay much attention to that aspect of our business for a couple of years. And over 24 months, we grew from 10 employees to 30 employees. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but that was great growth. That was 100% annual growth. And so then I came in, bought out the business, and built it to where it's at today. Today we're in 3 centers. We have hundreds of employees all across the Philippines. And we're in the process of buying another company which will double our size. So it's really, really been exciting.
Daven, I got to ask you something. You brought up something that comes up a lot in these interviews, and that's you started on one path with these virtual assistants or working, overseas. And you saw another opportunity come up and kind of shifted the direction you're going. I hear this consistently, and I want to know what lets you know that this is the right direction to go. You know, we have these thoughts in our head. How did you know this is where I need to go?
Yeah, well, you know, there's two things I know about entrepreneurs. One is that we tend to be bootstrappers, right? Sometimes a little tight on cash, but what we lack in capital, we make up for in passion and enthusiasm. Right. And another thing I know about entrepreneurs is that we tend to be open to opportunity. It's that opportunity that put your people here on this hangout today. It's that opportunity that brought all of us together. And I've always been open to opportunity. I think that entrepreneurs are always open to opportunity, sometimes to a fault. You know, there's a difference between having an eye open to opportunity and following the next shiny, bright object, right? So,
yes.
So we have to make sure that we're consistent, because the one thing I've realized is that focus is everything. Whatever you focus your intention on is what's going to expand. I mean, there's just no way around that. You know, if you focus on your wife, your relationship's going to get better. If you focus on your business is going to grow. So you want to be consistent. I find, you know, it's a challenge, because if somebody throws enough money at you, you'll just do that task, won't you? And yes. Sometimes we don't follow our passion because we're making so much money that it's like, well, shoot, I'm making so much money, let's just keep doing this. But at the end of the day, we don't want to just do what you know, pays the bills. We also want to do what pays our soul, right? And so I think there is this still small voice that exists in all of us, and I think it's always talking to us. I just think that quite often we don't listen. So you know, I know that entrepreneurs are very strong on intuition, and I think it's important to, you know, listen to what's in your heart. What I've found for me is that when I can make a difference in other people's lives, that's when I find fulfillment. The cool thing is I'm in a business, I get paid for it, and that's just like, wow. So
yes,
yeah, that's what I mean.
And you get paid very well. I got to tell you guys a story of when I first met Daven. We've known each other for a few years. This guy walks in this event dressed just like to the nine, looking sharp, wearing a watch that looks more expensive than my house. And I'm like, I got to get to know. Are you wearing that watch right now?
You know, it's downstairs.
It's downstairs. Well, we gotta put a picture on the blog or something. This guy's got a watch that it'll make you go blind. There's so many diamonds on it. So,
babe, are you up here? Yeah, okay. We're gonna grab the watch before the end.
Yeah, grab the watch, because it's motivating. You know, it's great to hear stories like this and see the results of the work that you've done. And let's tie this back to the virtual assistants for a moment. You, in the short time that I've known you, it's been a few years now, I've just seen you go to the top of the charts. You know, you're one of the most sought-after speakers. You're on every stage. You're with Bill Clinton and Mark Victor Hansen, and, you know, best-selling author. Tell me, you know, now you got hundreds of virtual assistants. Obviously, this is a viable business and people like it. Why should we all consider using virtual assistants in our business?
Okay, sure. Well, Sam, as you know, today there are two sort of factors coming together, and I see it as sort of a perfect storm. Thanks, babe. First of all, today there is more on the entrepreneur's plate than there ever has been in the history of mankind. And that's because now you can be the one-man show in your business. You can do the marketing. You can do all the fulfillment. You can do the sales and this and that. You could do everything. You could literally be sitting in your office. You could be on online chat answering support calls. You could be on the phone making calls. You could be doing your Google AdWords account. There's so much that you can do. You could technically do it all yourself. But at the same time, you have less help than you ever had before, because so many people are working from home. It used to be that you had something that you wanted to take care of. You delegate somebody in your office and it gets done. Today, we have less help than we've ever had. We have more to do than we've ever had. And as a result, entrepreneurs are feeling absolutely overwhelmed. So there are so many solopreneurs, entrepreneurs all over the planet. They're looking for a solution. They need help. They can't, you know, it's questionable. Like, do I spend money in the U.S. or do I put that money in my pocket? Whereas there are places overseas where people work for a heck of a lot less and, unfortunately, or fortunately, do a much better job. And I think that's because the sense of entitlement that is sort of crept up on us here in the U.S. doesn't really exist overseas. And right. There are people that are hungry to do what you need done. They have learned to live with considerably less than you could ever imagine, and they're incredibly motivated because they've had their first taste of true capitalism and entrepreneurship. And so the opportunity there by using other countries' arbitrage here, if you will, or leverage, is huge. And there's the watch.
Yeah, there it is, dude.
I think this
Straight
is,
bossed out.
I have a little collection, but yeah, this one's ridiculous. And 10 carats, 9.5 carats.
There it is.
I actually
dude.
I bought this in Vegas after a good year, and it was before I was a speaker. And I never knew that I would be speaking at that juncture, and now I wear it on stage, the light hits it, and so I get a lot of, leverage, I guess, on that
Instant
watch.
credibility. That's great. So, Oliver, I know you have a few questions written down. I want to address a few things. Why don't you shoot one?
Yeah, let me just jump in real quick. So what I've found in talking to people is that a lot of business owners, they kind of like the idea of virtual assistants. They've heard all about it, but they don't necessarily know, what sort of things can be outsourced. And so why don't you shed some light on the things that the average everyday business owner can take off of their plate and give to someone that can handle those kind of things.
Sure. Well, today, it used to be there weren't that many tasks that we could do. But again, innovation, technology, we can do just about everything these days. Matter of fact, I was looking at our list the other day of things that we can't do, and there might be like 1 or 2 things left now, which is pretty awesome. I think a couple things to note. A lot of people think of a virtual assistant as a strategist, and so what they'll do is they'll look for a virtual assistant. They'll say, do my social media, do my marketing, do my internet marketing here, and unfortunately that doesn't fly. Virtual assistants they're not strategists, they're task executors. So the way that you make this all work is by coming up with a plan. And we'll probably talk about our company, which is 123Employee, and we actually do create marketing plans for our people. Even more so, we're going to talk about an alliance that we've created recently where you could actually have virtual assistants trained on your platform and do all the stuff that you're already teaching, Sam and Oliver. So there's a lot of opportunities. But what I do is I tell people to do a little exercise, and I say, listen, there's about 1,000 tasks every day that we can do in our business. Guys, would you agree? About 1,000 tasks?
Yeah,
at least.
yeah, absolutely. But only a small handful that generate immediate results in our income in our business. Bottom line, immediate results, and we call these income generating activities, or IGAs. So I usually tell people this. I say, listen, grab a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle. On the left-hand side, put a list of all your tasks. On the right-hand side, make a list of all your IGAs, the income generating activities in your business, the tasks that generate immediate bottom line results in your business. So they make that list. So I said, look, all the stuff on the task side, you can outsource it. All the stuff on the right-hand side, what I want you to do is I want you to circle anything that you feel can be outsourced or delegated. They'll usually circle maybe 30% or something like that. Then I'll say, okay, listen, if you had a month to do a total brain dump to somebody and teach them everything you know, then what could you outsource? Most people can then circle 70, 80%. And that's huge. And so that's the stuff you should outsource. When you think about outsourcing, you want to do you want to outsource these tasks in this order. You first want to start with the tasks that make you money, because as long as you're making money, you're just going to keep hiring more VAs and make more money. That makes sense, right?
So give me an example.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, can you give some examples of those types of things?
Sure. Well, Sam, the other day you and I were talking about your business, and I was asking you, how your real estate agents were finding success, and you were sharing with me that one of the great ways that they were generating traffic was through this video strategy. Okay, and so video strategy, video marketing strategy, is a perfect example. Shooting short videos. These can be how-to videos. They can be FAQ videos. They can be SAQ videos, which are should-ask questions, the questions that people should be asking about your business that don't. In the real estate business, they can also be, tour videos, right? Tours of the houses and what have you.
Right.
Once these videos are done, they're edited, and then they're put out on the biggest video directory in the world, which is YouTube. They're optimized for YouTube, and then we use software to put them out through a myriad of other sites, or video directories, that is, to get more traffic. And the bottom line result is a fewfold. One is more eyeballs equals more dollars, obviously. Also, as these show up, we get more valuable backlinks, and backlinks are great for SEO. But more importantly, this, The real estate market is a highly competitive market. And if you are a real estate agent and you are sitting in, let's say, San Jose, you're going to have a challenge without shelling out a lot of SEO dollars. You're going to have a challenge being on the first page of Google. But you can probably get that video on the first page of Google. And how often have you gone to Google, you type in something that you're looking for, and a YouTube video box pops up? Well, what most people don't know all the time, and what most people don't know is about 95% of the time that's an organic listing. And so you may not be able to rank on the first page with your website or your properties in your area, but that video you probably can get ranked, and that'll be on page 1. And here's the question for you: if I go to page 1 of Google in your search term, and I see a bunch of listings, and I see a video, as long as the video looks compelling, what am I more prone to click on?
The video.
The video.
So that's
actually,
yeah.
I was going to say, I read a statistic the other day that said 80% of people are more likely to watch a 30-minute video than they are to read a one-page article. And it's just worth mentioning that these things work. And you talk about income-generating activities, getting people to see you on camera under your ideal search term, that is an income-generating activity. So that's a great point. So I want to just kind of recap this. It sounds like as a business owner, we have our visions, we have our plans, but there's a big difference between working on the business and working in the business. And we really, as entrepreneurs, need to be able to work on the business, meaning putting plans together, laying out visions, talking about expansion, and then hiring and delegating people to work in the business, pushing the buttons, getting the videos ranked, getting your blogs out there. So are these the things that a lot of your clients are focusing on?
All the time. When we first opened our business, guys, which was a long time ago, about 95% of our business was voice-based. And at the time, what was really hot is we were doing mortgage, we were doing real estate, and we were doing debt consolidation. And that was 95% of our business. Today, 98% of all our clients ask us to do some form of social media or internet marketing. And the gist of that shift has really taken place in the last 36 months. So, that's what all of our clients have us doing.
So, Daven, I have a question that not a question, but more of a statement I want to bring up that I'll tie into a question. You are pretty much, every time I talk to you, we talk pretty regularly, or on Facebook. Every week, almost seems like every other day I see you, you're in a different part of the world, from Europe to Asia to somewhere in the States, Vegas, popping bottles, having fun, but you also have hundreds of employees. Tell me, how can someone live the life that you live, traveling from city to city, but still have the ability to manage hundreds of employees to keep your business going on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. Great question. When we, in the early days of 123, we were all about promoting increasing your productivity and saving money. Saving money, increasing your productivity. That was our entire focus. And as time went by and things began to change, technology got better, we realized it was about lifestyle. And if we were going to continue to cater to entrepreneurs, what they really want is most entrepreneurs, they get into business, because they want time freedom, they want to spend more time with their friends and family, they want to travel the world, they want to do the things that juice them, they want to follow their passion projects, and instead what happens is they end up working 18 hours a day, getting paid less per hour than they got at their job. And so we really wanted to put an end to that. And so I did sit down several years ago and I said, you know what, I don't want to have a life that my business defines for me. I want to have a lifestyle that I design. And for me, what I want to do is I wanted to teach. I wanted to speak. I wanted to empower. I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. And I wanted to see the world. And the cool thing is now I get paid to do that. And the way I did it is one is through speaking, and the other is through putting systems in place that allow me to run a brick-and-mortar business and still travel the world. And so to put that in perspective, I just got back into the U.S. a few days ago. My girlfriend and I, we were for 10 days, we were on a private island in the Philippines with our mastery clients. And then we left there. We went, the next day we did our event, Outsource Live in Singapore. And then before that, I was in Nepal I was in Tibet. I went to Mount Everest. And so every day it's a new adventure. Day after tomorrow I'll be in New York doing CNBC. And it's awesome. And at the same time, I'm building our brick and mortar business. Matter of fact, we have had triple-digit growth for the last few years, which is really unprecedented. And I'll tell you what I really attribute it to. It was the system, putting systems in place. It was going from changing our model up from going to marketing to one, which is what most people do, to marketing to many. And then also a huge shift happened for us less than 3 years ago, and that was I started bringing on my first C-level executives. You see, I've been self-employed for 3 decades. I had hundreds of employees, so I did have leverage. But what I didn't have is I didn't have more chiefs. I didn't have more of me in the business, people of my caliber. And this isn't easy to get because you got to pay a lot of money for these guys. It doesn't happen overnight. But the steps are you put systems in place, you get leverage on your business, you start bringing in a lot of low-end employees that are talented, and you grow your business. And then you get to a point where you're making enough money where you can start bringing in some more chiefs. And when you do that, your business grows exponentially. And that's exactly what happened, because for me, it was, even though I was, a decent-sized company, it was always me. It was always me running the show, and you just can't grow that fast, that quickly, that large when it's just you. And so finally, I brought on my first C-level, and we just began to explode because it was like having double me, And so that's been really, at the core of that is putting systems in place, getting leverage, and then I am proof positive that you can do it because I am running a brick and mortar business, 3 big centers, hundreds of employees, and I do that from a cell phone and laptop from some of the most exotic places in the world. It's pretty
there's something that just keeps popping into my head. I just have to share it. And it's just exactly in line with what you're talking about. One of my first mentors said something to me that I really couldn't quite digest for the first few years. And over time, working with people like yourself and really learning how to delegate and outsource things, it makes sense to me. What he said to me is this: being successful and running a business takes a lot of hard work. There's a lot of stuff that has to be done, but you don't have to do it all yourself. The work has to get done, but you don't have to do it. And when you understand the power of leveraging systems that people like Daven Michaels and 123Employees have put together, that is the epitome of getting the work done, but not doing it yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it's interesting. Just 2 days ago, I got the privilege to hang out with Arnold Schwarzenegger for the afternoon. And what a famed, unbelievable, incredible storybook life that guy's had, right?
Right.
And what I found so interesting is he was so down to earth, and he experiences all the same challenges that we all do. He's been running, probably 100 multi-million-dollar businesses, and he said pretty much the same thing, Sam, and it totally was on that same page. But also, it's like, look, if you want to grow a big business, it is hard work. I mean, when I'm sitting on the shores of, whatever, private island of the Philippines, I am having a great time, but I'm not just kicking it, having cocktails. I'm working very hard, but I'm working smart. And so I'm only doing the things that I'm passionate about, the high-level parts of my business that are absolutely proprietary to me, and everything else is outsourced and delegated.
It's beautiful.
So it sounds like the main recipe to success then is really setting up the systems, like first identifying, obviously, like you talked about, all the tasks that you want, that you think that can be outsourced, and then kind of putting together a system to where you could just plug anyone into it, right? So
Yeah,
you find one of these employees, you plug them into the system for X task, and then let them take it on. And then I think the key is, like you said too, is to not micromanage them and to not just throw it to them and forget about it, but kind of find that balance in between where you can still monitor progress of what they're doing, but not necessarily breathing down their neck and asking for demands every 2 seconds.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And at the end of the day, quite often when I say, hey, listen, your virtual assistant's not going to be a strategist, sometimes entrepreneurs get a little deflated, like, oh, man, that's what I want. Well, yes, I understand that. And so they get a little, scared about this. Well, I don't have a system. Well, the cool thing is, what we're talking about today, you guys already have a system in place. And so all we're going to do is we're just going to add a little leverage to the tasks that are already working for you and your members all over the nation. And it's kind of a perfect win-win because we know that real estate professionals are incredibly busy. And so, you know, let's monopolize on what's already working, and let's just get some leverage on it.
Yes, get someone to push the buttons for us, make it come to life, so we can focus on growing our business while other people are managing it. It's a beautiful thing. It's something that over time for us, we were able to work through the fear of outsourcing. But we're a lot like you, Daven. We're quick starters. We're going to go for it. You know, oftentimes Oliver has to bring me back down because I don't even care. I'm like, let's go. That's where I want to go. I'm headed there. So a lot of times for people like us, we're going to go there and we're going to make it happen and we're going to scrape our knees across the way. But a lot of people I talk to are so terrified of outsourcing because they just don't know what to expect. And, you know, how would you explain is the best way to overcome that fear for those of us that know we want to do this, know we need the help, but we're just terrified of relinquishing the work to someone else that we've never touched, met, not that we're touching our employees, touched, met, you know, there's something about being able to shake someone's hand. How can we get past that?
Sure. Well, let me tell you, there's actually kind of some pros to not having that ability. Sometimes having somebody right next to you, of course, it's convenient, but sometimes it's a crutch too. And what's nice is if you don't, like, when I used to have a lot of, well, when I'm at our offices overseas, I do have a lot of people popping into my office. Well, that's a perfect example. So when I'm in my offices overseas, I've got people popping in, asking me questions all day long, this, that, so on and so forth. But when I'm out running around, that's just not the case. So it's kind of nice to have people in a virtual setting as well. Oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. What was the question again, Sam?
I couldn't agree more with what you said there, though, about having people right there in your office, because one of the big things around our office is the good old got a minute meeting, where people will just bust in, hey, do you have a minute? Are you disturb them? Do you have a minute? And then all of a sudden productivity just falls apart.
Right.
So, you know, you bring up a good point about, you know, the distance can sometimes also be a good thing.
Thanks.
But so let's touch on the next thing, I guess, is how do you find a virtual assistant, right? Once you've identified some tasks that you think are good candidates to be outsourced, what's kind of the next step to making it happen?
Sure, no problem. Okay, so there are really two options in my book. One is utilizing freelancers, and the other is using a managed facility like 123. So freelancers, there are pros and cons. So the pros are they can be less expensive. Not terribly, but less expensive. And you can find specialists, and sometimes that's definitely a plus. Unfortunately, there's a lot of downsides. And we get people all day long that come to 123 that have had freelancers, and they might have found somebody that was tremendous. And they worked with them, they taught them everything they knew, they were with them for 6 months, they were a trusted member of the team, they did a great job, and then one day they disappeared, or their house got flooded, or they began to experience daily brownouts, or the power went out for 3 months. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. Or they just disappeared, or they just found another client, or they wanted more money. So, and of course, they can't monitor them. So we get these people all the time that come to us, and what we've learned over the years is that it's better to use a managed facility. Now, of course, I'm biased, but we've just gotten to the point where we've collected so much data, and we have so many stories that we know. So what are the pros and cons to a managed facility? Well, the upside is that there's total accountability. If you lose somebody, there's usually somebody next in line that can drop right into place. The attrition is low. There's redundancy, the power, the internet, the telephone is all redundant, your data is secure, and there's scalability, which is huge in a business because you know, business doesn't generally go like this. It tends to go a little bit more like this. It could be a bumpy road. And so as things grow in your business, you want to expand rapidly, but you know, sometimes you have to contract rapidly too. So the nice thing about using a managed facility is that all those things takes place, that you throw into it, training and so on and so forth, and we find it's a much better solution.
So just to clarify this, you know, we talk about finding freelancer. This is, you know, going on the internet and just finding someone versus going to a company like 123Employee that is in the business of managing and keeping these people happy and giving you more of a turnkey solution. Is it fair to say that those are the biggest distinctions?
Absolutely. Yep. That's it.
That's great.
Yeah.
So talk to me about 123Employee and how anyone from a doctor to a real estate agent, everyone between can work with you guys and what they can expect, and give us a quick roadmap to success and how they could get started hiring someone through your company.
Sure, sure. Well, what's unique about 123 is that it was started by an entrepreneur. It was started by a marketer, and as a result,
This guy,
yeah. But I have to tell you, it was never just this guy. I mean, I was the guy with the idea, and then there are hundreds of guys all involved in my business, and I always say I'm as good as my best person, and we have a tremendous team. But we are absolutely marketing centric at 123. And the reason why is because marketing is the lifeblood of any business. Well, there's two lifebloods, really. One is money, one is leads. If you don't have money, you're out of business. And if you don't have leads, if you don't have business coming in the door, especially if you're a real estate agent, you're totally out of business. And so that's what we focus on. We want to generate revenue for our clients as quickly as possible so they grow, we grow. It's a symbiotic relationship. I always say that 123 is like a business incubator. People come to us, they hire a quarter of employee or a full-time employee, and then they begin to have some success. They make some money, they bring on more people. They grow, we grow. Matter of fact, I'll tell you a cool little story. We do an event all over the world called Outsource Live, and we do another one called New Wealth and Freedom Live. And they're basically events where our people can come to one of these 3-day events and learn all the ins and outs of outsourcing and marketing. We show them the latest and greatest in marketing, and we show them how to delegate and outsource it. And it's a very well-received event. People really like it. And we do it because we've just grown to realize that a better educated client is a much, much, much more successful client. So we did one of these events about 4 or 5 months ago in LA. This gentleman came in from Australia, flew from Australia to be at the event. He was a volunteer. Now, usually volunteers are people that either want to help or can't afford the price of the ticket, right? Okay. But that was not the case with this guy. He actually, we didn't know it, but he volunteered for 2 reasons. One is he just wanted to get to know us. He just wanted to see what we were really about, He wanted to sort of peel back the curtain. And then also, a cool thing we do is we have closed-door sessions at these events that are specifically just for our volunteers. It's just like a payback, thanking them for helping us out. And so he came as a volunteer. He didn't have to. He had plenty of money. Came as a volunteer, and that was that. And we didn't hear much from him for about 4 or 5 months. We were just in the Philippines last week at our campus 2. We brought our Mastery VIP clients out there to meet their employees and stuff. And there he was at our center at Campus 2 from Australia, and he now had about 23 of our employees. And we figure that he'll probably have about 40 in the next maybe 10 weeks, 12 weeks. So it's just so cool to see this happen. We are like a business incubator. People come, they work with us, we help them out, and then once in a while we have a home run, and everybody wins. But Sam, to answer your question, the process of 123, we keep it very simple. We call it burgers and fries, really, and that's kind of our internal way of just keeping it simple. So what happens?
Write that down. Yeah, burgers and fries, please.
Yeah. And that was something that I knew from day one that what we were going to do. All these other outsourcing companies, you had to go to their site, you had to type in a form, tell them what your requirements are, then they would just come up with a price based on how much they thought you could afford to pay, and then they would contact you, and it was BS. And so in the early days, we were totally transparent. I was the first company to say, hey, here's our prices. Here's what you're going to pay. Everybody pays the same price, and it's been like that since day one. And so what we did is we really simplified the process and made outsourcing accessible to people all over the world, and I feel very proud of that. And so it's still very simple. If you were to come to 123Employee, you place an order for an employee. There's a one-time $199 setup fee. I believe we bill you the setup fee up front, and then after that, you don't pay for your service until you hire your first employee. What happens is within a few hours you hear from somebody, and they will assign you a project manager. You'll get a chance to meet them, and your project manager runs the show. That's really the person that you work with. And we switched to this project manager model a few years ago, and that's because internet marketing is growing so quickly, social media is growing so quickly, it was impossible to think that each of our person could be a specialist in everything. So we created groups of specialists, and then we took our best people and we made them project managers. And so what happens is you're assigned a project manager. They orchestrate all your projects. They do everything they can for you. If there's something that's beyond their scope or something that's new, they can divvy it down to one of our pools of people, and then they'll do the work and they project manage it. And that's worked out very well. So basically, we assign you project manager. Once you decide you're happy with them and you want to work with them, then you are good to go, and then we start billing you. Now, what I want to talk about is something that's really unique, and that is an alliance that we've made with you guys recently to actually offer a free block of hours to to your very special clients. And so, shall I sort of chat about that for a second?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Throw it out there. We appreciate that.
Of course, it's my pleasure. We appreciate you sharing the word 123. So we've just created a little mini package with a bundle of 10 hours. It's a very inexpensive package. It's like $97 a month, but it's free for the first month. And these are for your VIP members. They'll receive this offer, and they'll basically get to try out our services for free for a month. The virtual assistant will come pre-trained on your platform, the things that you guys have used most effectively in your marketing for real estate agents. So as soon as they come through, we'll know that our people need to be up to speed on that. There will not be a setup fee. There will not. I've got my son in the background there. There will
Say
not.
Hi.
That's Damien. Say hi, Damien. Hi. Okay.
Hi.
So there will not be a setup fee, and there will not be any charges at all. I think we charge you $1 or a penny just to confirm your credit card. You do have to put it in your credit card info, but we won't charge you a penny. And then you can try us out for a month. And then if you like it, keep it going. If you find value in it, keep it going. That's great. We would love to be working with you. You can even upgrade those hours if you want to, because it's a small package. Or you can cancel. There's no obligation. There's no contract. So you can try it for a month, try it for 3 months, try it for 3 years, whatever you want to do. And that's it. We keep it nice and easy.
Devin, I got to jump in here just because I have to share, like, sincerely how much this stuff has worked in our business and what I really believe that it can do for everyone that's listening. I can't tell you the amount of tedious, what we call tedious work, the button pushing and the optimizing and the editing and all these things that bog Oliver and I down and the rest of our partners in our team, that now we leverage 123 and let them take care of it all. What I know is success leaves clues, and Daven Michaels is a form of success, is a poster child of success, and he has put together systems that are virtually guaranteed to help you duplicate the results that he and many of his clients have had. So I want you to take him up on this offer, because I know that it's going to affect you like it affected us. I know it's going to give you time so you can grow your business. I know it's going to give you time so you can focus on the more important things and hang out with your kids and really take back control of your life. So something else I want to touch about before we wrap this up is you had a knockout success with your book. It's called Outsource Smart. Is that correct?
That's right. That's right.
So tell me about Outsource Smart. How can we get access to it for everyone that's listening? We'll put a link on it on the page, but tell me about it and why should we read it?
Sure. One of the big tipping points for our business was a few years ago, and it was when Tim Ferriss's book came out, The 4-Hour Workweek. And if you're watching this, the odds are very good that you've read the book. And if you haven't read the book, run out and buy the book right now. And that book was a huge game changer, especially, for entrepreneurs all over the world, but for us, especially in our business, because in the early days, we had to convince people, well, this is back when we were mostly a U.S. company. Today we were international. But we had to convince people in the U.S. that outsourcing was not un-American. That was like a big focus. If you look at my early books, that was like, all my books started out like that. I had to explain that whole bit and sell that conversation, and I don't have to do that anymore. And that was because Tim Ferriss's book came out and made outsourcing interesting to the entrepreneur. And I thought it was a game-changing book, amazing book. Tim Ferriss is a brilliant author, just blown away. Not just a brilliant author, brilliant guy. But I felt that was just the beginning of the outsourcing conversation. And I felt that there was still room for a guide on practical steps
Looks like we just lost Daven Michaels. Hopefully he'll be back with us. But look, there is no shortage of information that Daven can share with us. I recommend everyone goes and downloads his book right now. There he is.
I'm back. Did you catch that whole thing, or?
We caught most of it. You were just talking about how Tim Ferriss's book really helped influence people and made your job easier.
Yep. And so I wanted to create a book that began where teams are more practical, like, hey, how do I do this stuff, you know? And in the pages of my book, Outsource Smart, I show people step by step how do you do it. Whether you're going to do freelancers, whether you're going to do a managed facility like 123Employee, you know, whether you're going to do for marketing or admin, and just basically how to do all that stuff step by step. And it just became a New York Times bestseller several weeks ago.
Nice, so, congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. So that means people are reading it, they're finding value, they're telling their friends about it. Yes, thank you. That's really what we wanted to happen, and I feel like it's just a beginning. I really want, you know, all entrepreneurs to read this book because I feel that it's a game changer too, and so I want to share that message. And you know, our vision, our goal is to basically rescue lifestyle-starved entrepreneurs all over the world. So that's what we're doing one by one.
Well, it's a very cool mission, very cool stuff that you're doing. I think there's one more kind of final point I'd like to make, or at least something I'd like to address, just because this is probably the biggest question that we get asked when talking to people about dealing with virtual assistants. And I think it applies to both models, whether we're talking about the, you know, finding a freelancer through like an Odesk or a Guru.com versus you know, a full turnkey operation like 123Employee. And that's really, how do you screen the people? How do you make sure that the person that you're actually hiring is going to be, you know, legit, get along with you, and fully be capable of the job that you're assigning them to do?
Sure. Well, if you're using a freelancer, you really don't know. But I can give you some tips, and that is you test them. You give them basic tests, you know, some specific tasks to do as a test. Also, what you want to do is you want to ask them lots of questions. The cool thing about hiring overseas is that they don't have a lot of restrictions that we have here in the U.S. So you can ask them, hey, listen, you know, what do you do with your free time? Do you have kids? Are you dating someone? I mean, you can get personal, because I think somebody's personal life is a big part of their business life, isn't it? So you can ask the important questions. You can test them out for sure. Another important thing I would do is, if you're going to use a freelancer, I would make sure to schedule your interview with them during the times you want them to work. It's tough to get a freelancer to match your hours. Like, about 75% of our employees at 123, they come in at midnight and work till 9:30 in the morning. That's because 75% of our client base is in the U.S. If you hire a freelancer, they usually will not work through the night for you. So if you can't get them on the phone during your day, then that may be an issue. Now, if you're maybe doing web design projects and you don't really care if they're in real time with you, then that might not be an issue. We actually have a web dev team that's in India, and they won't match our times because Indians don't like to do it. And so I don't blame them. And so that's okay, though, because we do work during the day. We give it to them at the end of the day. They do it throughout the night. And we average in the morning. So for them, for us, it's not a big deal with them. So you want to definitely do that. If it comes to a managed facility, most of the heavy lifting is done for you. You just ask some questions, make sure that that person has an understanding of what you need, and that you can work with them, and you're good to go. What we do, we have 3 centers. We have roughly around 30 people that apply every evening at all 3 centers. So we process nearly 100 applicants each night, and then we hire about 2%. We put them through some pretty rigorous testing, and we hire about 2%. So those people are screened, and then when they're in the pool, we have a pool, while they're waiting to get hired, they're getting more training. So you know, if you go to the managed facility, it's not a big challenge. But hey, at the end of the day, as hard as we work at 123 to create the best experience as possible, we know that our experience from a user level, our client experience, is 100 times better than it was 2 years ago. We know that. But at the end of the day, no matter how great our user experience is, we're going to make mistakes. We're in the people business. People make mistakes all day long. We will never have a perfect business. But the cool thing is that we always make it right. So if you have somebody that, if you have a situation that needs to be handled, we get in there and fix it. If you have an employee that you're not happy with, we'll quickly cut them and find you a new employee. So, you're not stuck with the decisions you make. As entrepreneurs, we always need to stay flexible in our approach, and we understand that. So we're here to help.
Very nice. So I want to wrap this up. I don't know if you have anything else you want to address, Oliver. The thing I just want to touch on that you said is the fact that your employees are available when Americans are working. And that is the biggest frustration that we had with some virtual assistants that we were using before we got hooked up with you. And that was the challenge, that while I'm trying to get my work done, they're sleeping and vice versa. So it always puts you one day behind in it. It makes it a big challenge. But working with your company obviously fixes that. So good work.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. No, it's true. That is a challenge. It can be.
Cool. So look, I want to give everyone the link to your book. It's 123employee.com/outsource smart. We're going to put a link on the page so you can go straight to it. We're also going to put information so you can get involved with Daven. And for what it's worth, this is a step that you just need to have blind faith in. Put your trust in us, put your trust in Daven and his awesome team, and just put your trust in the fact that this is where the future is going. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when, so get involved sooner than later.
Absolutely.
And not only that, it's really cool that Daven, you've really made it risk-free for everybody. I mean, for those of people that have never worked with a virtual assistant before, this is a perfect opportunity to kind of, get your feet wet and give it a try and see how much time that you're able to save and how much money you're able to save in the long run by outsourcing some of these tasks that you really, frankly, don't need to be doing.
Yeah, totally. And Oliver, that's exactly what I was going to say. We've basically reversed the risk so that you can get your feet wet, you can give it a shot, see if it's right for you, and not only will you save money, but you'll make money in the process, and that's what it's all about, right?
That is the name of the game at the end of the day. So we'll definitely put all the links to get in contact with Daven and all the other stuff that we've talked about today. If you have any questions, leave us a comment. If you want to get involved, we're always available, and we love helping out. Sam, you wanna wrap it up?
In short, Daven, I want to thank you for taking the time to meet with us. Again, it's a true honor to have someone that really understands the space as well as you do. I know this is a big value add for everyone that's listening. And as Oliver said, if there's anything that we can do to get you connected with Daven, don't wait any second longer. I want you to take action right now. Do it right now. Click the link on the page. Take action and watch your time come back. Watch your lifestyle change and watch your business grow. We're watching these shows. We're staying involved because we all have one common goal, and that's success and happiness. So with that said, we always have your back. We love you. Till next time, go crush it, and let us know we can help.
Peace out.
See you later, everyone.
Later.